Welcome everyone to Disruptive Conversations with me, Dr. Risa Reiger. So happy to be shepherding in the new year together. And one of the things that we know is that we learn so much from one another's stories. We learn so much from one another's experiences, especially in the space when people are willing to share the real, and talk about things that are important, not just where we were able to succeed, but really where were the obstacles, where were the challenges along our path, because that's where the rubber meets the road. And when your rubber meets the road, getting into moments of challenge, of uncertainty, of not knowing where to go next, it's when we need these skills most to help get us through. So today we're going to be with Paulina Lopez, and I'll be telling you more about her, and we'll be sharing her journey. And in that space, we're going to be learning more that's going to be applicable for ourselves and understanding in deeper versions. So if you haven't been here before, welcome everyone. I'm so happy to have you here with me, Dr. Risa Reiger, clinical psychologist. And in Disruptive Conversations, what we know for sure is that positive change can happen at any point, but in order to create positive change, that we need to disrupt. And that may sound sort of strange, and disruption can be difficult, and certainly change is not easy. And although change isn't easy, it doesn't mean that it's something that we're unable to embrace. So right now I'm waiting for Paulina to come on. If you would like to let somebody know that we're going to be starting soon, please do let them know. And if you haven't followed me yet, I leave information, I drop information and videos that are very helpful. I've gotten great feedback from people. So please make sure to follow me. Don't miss your opportunity, and because we're here, I'm here for you. And thanks so much, GPS Counseling. The Drinking Dolls have joined. Print Wonder has joined. Jose Luciano has joined. Thanks so much for being here today. Wonderful to see you. And we're waiting for Paulina to come on. In the interim, one of the things that I know for sure is that, and I'm going to be talking some more about it, and I've been dropping information about it this week, is the importance of how we set ourselves up. And generally what happens is we wake up in the morning and we just get going. And we don't give ourselves an opportunity to really set ourselves up, to warm up to our day. And when I say that, look, we don't have an hour to do that. We don't have an hour and a half to dedicate. If you do, more power to you. But really, for the most part, many of us, we get up and we really need to hit the ground running in so many respects. However, we can allot 15 minutes while we're in the process of doing our morning. So for example, we can wake up and start with a morning routine that involves starting with success, starting with successfully accomplishing something. And take a task. Okay, here we go. We're getting the request. And we're going to go live. And we'll be introducing the show and Paulina. So, hi, Carly. Thanks so much for coming on. Hi, Black Deer. Hello, Paulina. And I am going to be introducing the show and then introducing you. So first, welcome everyone to Disruptive Conversations, in which we deep dive with entrepreneurs, educators, influencers, thought leaders, authors, in the challenges that they have needed to navigate and conquer in order to have achieved the personal and professional success they have up to this point in time, because there's more to come. I'm Dr. Risa Reiger, clinical psychologist, and I'm an expert in change. I help make people, companies, and teams make positive change at any point. Good news is that positive change can happen at any time. We're built for change. But in order to have positive change, we need to disrupt. We need to disrupt a thought, a feeling, a belief. And boy, did I disrupt a belief this week. A belief, an action, a behavior in order to create our 10.0 selves, our 10.0 lives. And that's what this series of conversations is all about. And so I'm going to introduce Paulina, give you a little bit about her background, and you really want to stay tuned for this. Don't miss this. If there's someone you need to let them know to come on board right now. So Paulina Lopez, I have to read this because there's so much she's done. Paulina Lopez is the CEO and founder of the Business of We, Women Entrepreneurs, a mastermind community in New York. And she supports and brings together minority business women, female founders, and entrepreneurs at all stages of their businesses, and dedicated to the advancement of women, establishing real conversations and really pulling in industry expert speakers. So without further ado, I bring you Paulina. Paulina, welcome. Hi. Boy, have we been a while in the makings of having this happen right now.
I agree. And thank you so much, Dr. Risa, for having me on. I'm so happy to have this conversation and just grateful for the opportunity to share and have these audience receive this information. So thank you so much.
It's really through the experiences and hearing about the experiences of others, people who have been thoughtful and self-reflective and self-respective. I almost had a little slip there, but I'm going to use that because it's so important to be able to move forward, and moving forward doesn't happen seamlessly. So before we continue, is there anything that I didn't mention in my intro that you would like our community to know about you?
Oh, you mentioned plenty, and I opportunity to connect with the audience, the women that's joining us at a live event here in the New York City area.
Absolutely. And we'll talk a little bit more about how we met, which is also very important and part of this story. But first, Paulina, in order to make positive change, we need to disrupt. So what is it that you needed to disrupt inside of yourself in order to have achieved the success you have at this point in time? Obviously, so much more to come.
Absolutely. Well, it starts with believing in yourself and the confidence that's required to have the faith and just go for it. And we're always going to have limiting beliefs that may stop us. But one thing is for sure, the resiliency of everything we've overcome is really what catapults that vision and catapults that action into place. And it starts with you believing in yourself, confidence in yourself, and the faith that it's all going to work out in your favor.
Yeah. Yes. So can you, because you have such a rich history, such a rich background of experience, would you be able to share one belief or something that you needed to disrupt, that you noticed that you needed to disrupt to be that person and that empowering person for you? What did you need to disrupt in yourself to connect more with your confidence and all the things that you've mentioned?
That we all have our own gifts and talents that we bring forth and to serve based on that capacity. So I think every single journey trajectory that each one of us face is the gift that we can bring to others. It's just the belief that, hey, we've been there and we want to guide you to also do the same. So believing in yourself, obviously the gift that you bring from all of your expertise, your skills. And I want to add to that, specifically for those that are still in a career, not necessarily an entrepreneur, is that even the skills that you obtain in your job, in your career, is part of the gift. It is part of the journey. And that's what you take with you into entrepreneurship.
Is there something specifically that you've experienced about your journey that you would like to share? Because I'm sure anything that you would share will be enormously helpful
I would say in my career, it being in a male dominated industry, I felt that I needed to push through. And it was quite the challenge. And it was my vision and mission to, step up that corporate ladder and prove myself. And I think in that there's an energy that's not always authentic when you feel like you have to prove yourself, when instead you should lean back into those gifts and talents and say and believe that I have what it takes, and I don't have to prove that to anyone, because that's where the comparison kicks in, and also the self-doubts and just the limiting beliefs when you feel that you have to prove yourself. So I think that within itself has some sort of a negative connotation and a negative feeling. And that's what I experienced. I realized that when I had to stop proving myself is when I started to shine in different ways, because I was now being more authentic in my approach.
And what you're talking about is so important. And I want to just give a shout out both for the women who are on, and also, thankfully, we have men who are on also. Men are not the enemy. Men are our partners. Our partners, our supporters, the people that we work with, and for to understand that oftentimes what happens is that women are coming into a situation, especially when it's male dominated, especially when you look like nobody else who's in the room, and and feel that, well, she's got, who is she, what is she about, and how is she gonna bring value. And so there's this, even if it's not expressed oftentimes, and this is where the unconscious needs to become conscious, which is that if you're the person sitting in the room, right, and you may not be aware of the fact that you may be doing this, like giving out that vibe, giving those facial expressions of, that you need to understand that can be part of the communication. And what you're talking about is recognizing that communication. And so how did you morph that for yourself? That's just so powerful, Paulina.
Thank you. I feel that I using my voice to communicate my feelings, my thoughts, and I say that you are absolutely right in saying that there are some incredible men that are here to openly hear us and listen to us. And the true balance comes in understanding that we work as a dynamic force together, understanding each other's needs, whether it's in a relationship or partnership, even in the workforce, is understanding each other's needs, being able to openly hear. That's where it really changes the game. So I would say use your communication skills, enhance those communication skills first, and use your voice. Where it differs, Dr. Reese, and I'm sure you fully understand this, is making sure it doesn't have any type of attitude or any type of victimization. Instead, it's a loving, nurturing way to say, hey, I want to be heard. This is what I feel. How can we mutually find a better to approach this? What is, and of course, being very, very solution focused, because that conversation, you have to intentionally open it because you want to know what the solution is, not necessarily because you just want to keep vetting. So I think that's the intention behind it.
Yes. And what you're saying, so to not vent and continue to vent, because if you had vented the first time and it had traction, you wouldn't have to vent again.
Agreed.
Oh, okay. So in learning from what works and what isn't working, to be able to, what I'm hearing you say, Paulina, is this ability to pull back, observe, and be an observer, not just of others, but also of yourself, and then to shift communication so that you can be in a communication, in a collaborative communication that's impactful and connecting.
I love that. And that is absolutely my intention and my feedback on that. Now, and I loved what you shared about the fact that that open communication is going to lead to better relationships, is what you have to do is you do have to check in with yourself first before you even address that conversation. And you have to check and correct yourself for the simple fact of others are going to do that for you. And they're not going to be so loving about it. And they're going to sense that. If they sense that the attitude and the victimization is there, then they're going to feel the need to take over and check and correct you. When in fact, if you do that for yourself first, and you authentically open up to that challenge, in other words, you're sharing, hey, this is what I felt and this is what I'm willing to work on, right? Bring it back to yourself, then the other person will feel that compassion towards the conversation and be much more inspired to focus on the solution.
Collaboration is so key. And so what I'm hearing from you, and I want to just bring this out into the community. And if I could use a highlighter right now, I'd be highlighting
Love
this,
it.
which is that when you are in the space of self-reflection, right, that what you can wind up doing inadvertently or very specifically is that you can preempt a conversation or communication that is not productive, not helpful to you, and not helpful for how you want to go forward together. Because what's the goal, right? And so when you preempt and have that reflection and have it honestly, right? That's where your confidence comes in, which I just think is so critically important, crucially important, that when you can self-correct, you are not in a space of being defensive.
Correct. And that's a key word, defensiveness. If you can identify that within yourself prior to opening up your mouth, because we sometimes from a place of defensive and victimization, then that's where you're going to feel the difference. That's where you're going to see the game change. Mm-hmm.
So, Paulina, just to mention that as women, we wear a lot of hats, and for women, we don't take, right? And thank you for that. You said it all. You said it all with that look. I couldn't ask for more communication than that. But when we wear our hats are always on.
Mm.
Not what hat are you wearing now? And one of the things I love to talk about and to write about, and we're having this conversation, is that we are ands,
Mm.
are ands, entrepreneurs and daughters, and sometimes mamas, and business people, and the people that we work with, and who we are for our friends, for ourselves. There are so many ands.
Agreed.
Yeah. So could you tell us a little bit about your ands and how because look, here you are, it's a little bit afternoon, you're showing up, you're all put together, you know, here we are in this conversation together. So if you could just share a little bit about what it means to you and how to navigate all of the ands of you.
Mm. Well, first and foremost, I have to honor myself as a woman, first and foremost, because self-care is key. I cannot serve or show up for anyone unless I think of me first. That's number one. And it took me a very long time to realize that, especially as women, we lose ourselves as moms, as wives, as career professionals. So that would be first. And second, I am a mom. I am a mom to young adults. So that's a very key aspect of it because we never take that hat off ever.
Ever.
And the moms in the room will completely agree with us. And then entrepreneurship is where I enjoy serving with purpose. That's where I get to play. I say that's where I get to play that's my playground. It's my space, my work. And if more women saw it as that, then they would enjoy it more and not force it as much. So those are the main hats that I wear. But of course, there's the aspect of friendship. There's the aspect of being a creator, of being a daughter, a sister. And there's so many hats that we wear because we tend to want to fill the needs of those around us. And we have to first fill our own needs. And I say this, and even when I host my wellness retreats in the Caribbean, it is with that purpose in mind. It's say, hey, you want to be able to show up for everyone that's around you that you're meant to serve, but let's fill your cup first. Let's fill your cup first.
That's it's so important and very hard, especially when we're being, the societal expectations of the traditional feminine. And I'm using this vocabulary, like, what is this vocabulary? I'm using that vocabulary very specifically, is that there is a selflessness that that we put ourselves at the bottom of the list, and sometimes that really does happen a lot, right? We talk to women, we are working with women, and we hear, well, if I have time after I buy the potatoes, I will, right?
Interesting. Yes.
And so what is it that helped you to bring yourself up on the list of priority?
That's a great question. I think for a woman, it kicks in after a certain age. I know for me, it started to shift a little bit in my 40s. I just turned 50. And when I was understanding the importance of, health, wellness, well being, mindset, then I said to myself, you know what? What do I want first and foremost? What do I want? What are my needs? How can I uh, create a space around me? Because that's so key. That's another key aspect of it is what's the environment that you're creating around you purposefully? Because you're not, not everyone's for you. Not every opportunity is for you. Not every relationship is for you. So how do I be intentional with the space that I'm creating and the environment I'm creating in my life so I can experience well-being and not have to, and I use this word very lightly because I know it's been a buzzword, but removing the toxicity around me. How do I start by removing that first? And then I can now clear a space where I'm focusing on my well-being.
Toxicity is a word that sometimes it's overused, but I think that being able to recognize when a situation, a relationship is toxic is enormously empowering.
It is. It really is.
And when we have that and we're able to see it, when we give ourselves permission and we make it a mandate, see what it is that's in front of us. And that sounds like what you've been doing, what it gives you in terms of real control and real stepping into your own power, giving yourself the power to see.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So we were saying before that being a parent, we know we can be in a relationship, we can be not in a relationship, we can be divorced, we could have had a friend, not have a friend anymore, whatever that is, have a business, not be in business, but that parenting is forever.
Ever. Yes, absolutely. Yes, and that's where you have to learn where the needs are, and not control the lives of your children, because that also becomes a place where you're filling someone else's cup and not focusing on your own.
Yeah. So you were saying that when you hit your 40s, that something changed inside of you. And, oftentimes what happens is we hear more about anti-aging. I don't know what the alternative is to anti-aging.
Right.
Uh,
Aging grace.
you know, well, yeah. I mean, are you supposed to not age? I mean, that means that you're kind of not around to do
Right.
things. if you're not aging. Aging is what happens. We don't want our babies to stay babies forever. They need to age. So it's gotten a very odd connotation. But that hitting your 40s was a space of change for you. And could you address that a little bit more? Because I think there's so much wisdom that would be
That's
helpful.
interesting that you said that, because the first word I was going to use is it is wisdom that kicks in. And I use the connotation of, hey, I'm growing wiser. I'm not growing old, I'm growing wiser. And that's how I embrace it, because we all want, and I'm sure you understand this, I hear this all the time, I wish that I had the energy and the body that I had in my 20s, maybe 30s, but the wisdom that I have today. And that's why I embrace it. And now that has superseded anything else. I mean, age is going to age and the bodies are meant to shift and change. But for me, the wisdom that's kicking in is so much more powerful than anything else, any external that we lose with age and, you know, and getting older.
Which is not, which is embraceable.
Right.
And, embracing it, embracing experience, embracing what that gives you, but not in the way that, I know where I remember being a kid, it's like, oh God, I'm going to hear the lecture again. Like, you know, if I were you, or if like when I was young, whatever that is, that space where, our kids like immediately, turn the sound off,
Right. Yeah.
the sound off, the brain off, they're gone,
Yeah.
you know,
Yes.
how you bring it. Because when you're talking about coming together with women, right,
Mm,
from the inside, it's coming from the inside out, from the space of an integration of both what you know in your head and the experiences that you've had and the
mm,
wisdom that you've developed over this period of time, and also integrating that with heart,
yes.
with commitment and caring. And so what's the message? What is it that you want the women that you're around
Mm,
to know and get?
beautiful. That there's zero competition.
Oh, okay. Stay with that. Stay with
Zero
that.
competition. It's me versus me. It's new me versus old me. The old me that was still experiencing growing, and the new me that's adapting to the changes. That's the only comparison that we should make. Because if we all think about it, if this world only looked at themselves, then we wouldn't have the finger pointing and we wouldn't have all the challenges, everything that's going on in the world, because it's always you, new you versus old you. How are you evolving? That's our mission here in this world. So for me, is understanding that the space that I create, the sacred space that I create in within this community, is about understanding that there's no competition, not even in the business world. We all have gifts, unique gifts and talents that we bring. How do we enhance that? And most importantly, how do we build genuine relationships? So that's the bulk of, that's the beauty of it. That's the magic of being a community leader, is having genuine interest in every single person, and creating that sacred space that you're leading, because you can't always just talk it, you got to show it. And I learned that very firsthand. Coming from an HR background, I learned that, and even being a mom, people don't do as you say, they do as you do. And if you want to lead, then you just have to work and be in silence. So it's more about who you're being, not necessarily what you're doing. And that's why creating this community has been about that. Just having women understand the importance of building themselves and not looking elsewhere.
And that is in fact how you and I met.
Yes.
Was here, I'll just tell the story up to a certain point, and then I'm going to hand that baton to you, which is this wonderful woman, Nicole. I don't know if she wants, I knew Nicole from another event space,
Mhm.
And we was so wonderful seeing her again. We hadn't seen each other in a long time, especially COVID, and you're all unidimensional and we don't exist from the shoulders down. And she said, you know what? You've got to come to this event and I'm going to send you an invitation. And so I said, okay, I'm there. I'm coming. And what happened was that I got myself there, traffic, all these things, but it's like I'm showing up and I'm going. So I come in, the people are already seated, and this wonderful woman who's just so together, and so everything about her was in alignment in terms of gracious, on top of it, saw everything that was going on and didn't miss a beat, personally escorted me to a seat in this room. And we talked about, because you were wearing a great coat. You were wearing a great coat. And we were talking about that a little bit. And then I realized that it was you. You were the person who created the event. You were the person that Nicole wanted me to meet. And we just inadvertently just connected. So you take it from there,
Absolutely.
Paulina.
Absolutely. And that's the importance of it. It's never about, this is about me, this is about me. No, this is about creating an experience for every single person in the room. And I love that you share that story, because that's exactly what that was. You didn't know that I was the host, but I wanted to make sure that every single woman that entered the room felt the difference in the room. And that starts with me. I appreciate
And, yeah. And you didn't know that I was the person that
it.
Nicole wanted,
Exactly.
wanting us to connect. And then we took it from there. And I want to, I think this is so important, okay? Because when we go to events and we meet a lot of people and people are meeting us and then they say, oh yeah, we should connect and blah, blah, blah. Unless you mean it, let someone know that it was lovely to meet them. But when you and I said we're going to connect, we meant it. We made it happen. And so you don't have to connect with everyone. But if you're going to say it, because we've both been there,
Mm.
that there are lots of ways of enjoying meeting someone without pushing or representing that you're going to push the relationship forward.
Yeah. That's amazing that you share that. And that is a key point, because first is you have to show up, right? Take the time to get up, right? We've been zooming away for many years, and we need to create real, genuine, authentic connections. So you showed up for yourself, for me, and for the other women in the room, just by being there. So that's the honor of being in those spaces. And then second, as you said, even if it's the one person that you were meant to connect with, that's all you need. With every networking opportunity that there is, if you just meet that one, that's enough. And then following up, that's where you're showing to the other that you meant it, that you are genuinely interested in establishing and fostering that relationship. So those are the steps, especially in this digital world that we're in, and now that we're phasing out of the Zoom dynamic or the virtual dynamic, is to have that intentionality when you do decide to network. Number one, you find the key place. There was something about the event that must have resonated for you, that you chose to be there. And then number two was the connection that we made, and then the inspiration to continue building that relationship, and hence here we are.
And here we are. And we also talked about going forward, that in
Yeah.
July, which is so so for everyone out there, show up as who you are. There are going to be people that you click with, and there are going to be people who can be very lovely and wonderful and everything else, and maybe that's just not your space together.
Perfect.
And for the ones that are, don't let it drop. If you say that you're going to do something, follow through, make it happen. And you never know. You don't know that it's going to work out. You don't know that it
Mm-hmm.
isn't. But follow up, stick with it, and give you and this other person the possibility
Opportunity.
of making something happen. And here we are now. So, you know, what can we right here and now, we are the proof of that. And if we want to model for people, you know, I don't set myself up as I'm the, you know, the model for it. But just in our experience, this is what can happen. Take that with you, put it in your pocket. And as you say, be curious, be
Mm.
authentic, right?
Genuinely interested in others.
Genuinely interested in others. And if you can't get there, that's, as you were talking about, working, doing the internal work. If you can't get there to be interested in others, that's a journey you need to take in yourself to understand what that's about, because people around you will feel it and know it.
Love it. I say that all the time. To be what you're doing. People say,
So before we wrap up, because I know our time has been like a blink. Oh my
I
gosh.
know.
Before we wrap up, and we take our, you know, our cover shot together, is there a last piece of information? Paulina, what's your next disruption?
Ooh, I have so much on the calendar for 2024.
Okay.
And I'll share that briefly. We're celebrating International Women's Day in New York City on March 8th. So we'll have a beautiful Divine Feminine Leadership Conference where we're going to listen to 7 incredible speakers in a TED Talk format, speak for 7 minutes to really support us in gaining that leadership in an organic, authentic way. So that'll be exciting. And then we have our wellness retreat, 7th annual, coming up in May 1st through the 5th in the Dominican Republic. And then the event you were mentioning, which is happening this summer, is our High Tea Business Salon. That is a beautiful event around etiquette with business and a huge relationship building conversation, roundtable conversation. Of course, Pretty in Pink, Pearls of Wisdom. But that's happening in the summer. And then, of course, our entrepreneurship event, which is where you and I met, is happening in October of this year. So that's the exciting stuff I have coming up.
Well, I'll share with you. There's a lot to share. This is your moment. There's a lot to share. We'll do that off screen, which will be delightful. So let's take a moment and take our screenshot. I have to do a little hair flip if you want to
I'll
just.
do the same.
Okay. All right. Okay. You ready? This will be our first one. One more. Paulina, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom, your heartfulness, the connectedness of mind and heart. Thank you again. To be continued, my friend, to be continued.
Excited to continue this conversation.
And everyone, don't miss our next disruptive conversation. It's a surprise one. I'm not going to announce it yet. And there is a surprise in the surprise. And remember always that positive change can happen at any point. See you next week. I've saved a seat for you.